The vampire serial killer of Sacramento, Richard Chase. Richard Chase was deemed the vampire killer because he would drink the blood of his victims and would eat parts of their body. There are 6 known victims, including 2 young children, but there could be more. He killed his victims within the span of 1 month in the late 1970s. He had several delusions as to why he felt the need to kill and drink their blood.
Investigation Hour. Viewer discretion is advised.
Born in Sacramento, California in May 1950, as a child he would set fires, wet the bed, and torture animals. This is known as the McDonald triad of serial killers, 3 traits that nearly all serial killers share in common as children. He was a disturbed child, and his father would often beat him and neglect him, only adding to his mental health problems. In 1975, at age 25, Chase was committed to a mental institution after being taken to the hospital for blood poisoning. He had injected rabbit blood into his veins. He eventually escaped the hospital and went to his mother's house, where he was apprehended and sent to an institute for the criminally insane. One day while there, nurses had discovered him inside of his room with blood smeared around his mouth. He had caught 2 birds through the bars of his windows, snapped their necks, and drank their blood. He was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic and was administered antipsychotic drugs. In 1976, he was released. Doctors had felt he was recovering and the drugs were working for him. Not everyone felt this way. His mother believed he didn't need his medication, and she weaned him off of it. Maybe if she wouldn't have done this to Richard, he wouldn't have committed these awful crimes. His father would eventually kick him out of his house and get him his own apartment, where he would turn to alcohol and drugs. He would often catch, kill, and dismember animals in his apartment and then eat them raw. He also put them in a blender to make smoothies. People even witnessed him taking neighborhood pets into his home, never to be seen from again. He said that he had to drink these smoothies because if he didn't, his heart would shrink and then he would die. He would live in a world of his own fantasies and delusions. He was so paranoid that he thought something was wrong with his brain. He shaved his head to track the movements of his cranial bones, which he thought were separated and moving under his skin. He even believed that his heart stopped sometimes and that he would become a walking corpse. He feared that he lacked vitamin C and would press entire oranges to his forehead, believing that his brain would absorb the nutrients. Chase would eventually become obsessed with firearms and purchase several handguns. He was fascinated by the Hillside Strangler and believed that he was the victim of the Nazi UFO conspiracy. He eventually stopped taking care of himself altogether. He didn't shower, brush his teeth, and he stopped eating. He was very thin, weighing 145 pounds. His first arrest was in mid-1977. He was stopped on a reservation in Pyramid Lake, Nevada. Police found him wandering around naked, and his body was smeared with blood. A bucket of blood and a liver was found inside of his truck. They also found 2 rifles and his clothes inside. The blood and liver were determined to be cow's blood, but at the time, he claimed the blood was his own that had seeped out of his body through his flesh. You can imagine how terrifying this must have been for the officers to witness. Without anyone to care for him and look after him, he fell deeper and deeper into his delusions. His first murder occurred on December 29, 1978. Ambrose Griffin. He recounted that his mother didn't allow him to come over for Christmas, and he was lonely and angry. He got into his car and killed his first victim with a .22 caliber pistol. Ambrose Griffin, a 51-year-old man, was helping his wife bring groceries inside. when Chase drives by slowly and shoots him in the chest. His second murder was on January 23rd. Teresa Wallen. Chase walked into her front door, which was unlocked while she took the trash out. As he came inside, he shot a 3-month pregnant Teresa 3 times. He then had sexual intercourse with her corpse while stabbing her with a butcher's knife. After that, he removed multiple organs and then drank her blood. He went to the bathroom and took a bath with her blood. He put dog feces from her yard inside her mouth and throat before leaving the crime scene. He later told detectives that he took it as a sign that locked doors signified that he was not welcome, but unlocked doors showed that he was invited to come inside and do whatever he wanted. 2 days had passed, and Chase was ready for more. He walked around the neighborhood checking for unlocked doors. These would be his final killings. On January 27th, Chase found a door unlocked. 38-year-old Evelyn Meredith's home. Inside was her 6-year-old son, Jason Meredith, 22-month-old nephew, David Ferreira, and a friend named Dan Meredith. He shot Evelyn Meredith, her son, and Dan in the house, and then proceeded to engage in necrophilia with Evelyn, and then partially ate her. Her stomach was cut open and he took multiple organs from her. He even ate parts of Dan's brain. However, 22-month-old David was missing from the crime scene. His mutilated body was found a few months later inside of a box behind a church. During his killing spree, Chase had left bloody footprints all over the house and then stole Evelyn's car and abandoned it a few hundred yards from his apartment. The FBI was brought in to investigate the string of murders due to the severity of these killings. Robert Ressler and Russ Vorpagel developed a profile of the predator. It's eerie how close the profile is.
White male, age 25 to 27, thin, undernourished appearance, single, living alone in a location within 1 mile of abandoned station wagon owned by one of the victims. Residence will be extremely slovenly and unkempt, and evidence of the crimes will be found at the residence. Suspects will have a history of mental illness and use of drugs. Suspect will be an unemployed loner who does not associate with either males or females and will probably spend a great deal of time in his own residence. If he resides with anyone, it will be with his parents. However, this is unlikely. Suspect will have no prior military history, will be a high school or college dropout, probably suffers from one or more forms of paranoid psychosis.
5 days after hearing the FBI profile, a woman named Nancy Holden contacted police saying she suspected Richard Chase to be the killer. The very same day that Robert Edwards chased Richard out of his home, Nancy was shopping in a grocery store when she ran into Richard. They had gone to school together and she didn't initially recognize him. He walked up to her without saying hello and just said,
"Were you on the motorcycle when Kurt was killed?"
Kurt was Nancy's high school boyfriend who passed away 10 years ago on his motorbike. Something about Richard made Nancy uneasy, and she managed to sneak out of the store while Richard was checking out. When the description was released by police of the uncaptured killer, she realized Richard was wearing the same orange parka jacket that fit the description. She immediately contacted police, and they found a .22 caliber pistol registered to Richard. They knew they had found their guy. They went to his apartment where they asked to speak with him, and he refused. Eventually, he left his apartment, where they then arrested him outside. He was holding a blood-covered box and had blood all over his clothing, with Dan Meredith's wallet in his pocket. Upon entering his apartment, the walls and floors were covered in blood. Inside his fridge were body parts of Evelyn Meredith, Teresa Wallen, and David Ferreira's brain inside of a Tupperware container, and his body parts were wrapped in plastic. There were animal body parts inside as well. Pet collars were strewn about on his kitchen countertop. They found the .22 caliber murder weapon covered in bloodstains. Even his utensils were bloodstained. There was a blender on the counter, soaked in old blood and rotting flesh. During trial, on May 8, 1979, the jury found Chase guilty on all 6 counts of murder in the first degree. His defense team argued that he was suffering from mental illness and that none of it was premeditated. The jury deliberated for 1 hour and found Chase to be legally sane, and then they sentenced him to death by the gas chamber. During his time in prison, he met with FBI agent Robert Ressler, who interviewed him and studied him to get a better understanding as to how and why he killed. The FBI still uses Chase as a case study for disorganized killers. While in jail, many inmates encouraged him to kill himself. He would stockpile his anti-anxiety medication and took enough to commit suicide. He was found dead in his cell the day after Christmas in 1980. Let this story remind us all to keep our doors at home locked tight. Thanks for listening. If you're into solved and unsolved crimes and strange mysteries, subscribe to us so you don't miss out on our weekly videos released every Monday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time. If you enjoyed this video, give us a like. It would really help us out. Until next time.